We are 17 hours from the trade deadline. The Dodgers made a couple trades on Monday. Kind of big, kind of not big. Definitely not everything we're hoping for. Plenty to talk about, though. So let's get live on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are here with us live on Monday night. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And you can make it easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning, or when you're live with us every late night, the night before every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And Vince, as we're recording this, we are 16 hours and 53 minutes from the trade deadline, and the Dodgers didn't wait till the last minute, although we hope that they still have more in them. Dodgers made two somewhat substantial trades on Monday. The first one was a 3-team trade. We'll dig into this one first, I guess. It was the big news of the day. The Dodgers get Tommy Edman from the Cardinals and Michael Kopech from the White Sox, plus a 17-year-old prospect, also from the Cardinals. In exchange, the Dodgers send Miguel Vargas, Gerald Perez, and Alexander Albertus to the White Sox. Also some player to be named later or cash considerations go in a couple different places that will probably end up being meaningless, whether they're cash or an insignificant player, I guess. But this one, there's plenty to talk about here, because it definitely, we said yesterday that if Tommy Edman is the key acquisition for the Dodgers, it would be a very uninspiring trade deadline. In the end, he's not. The Dodgers got 3 players today, 3 major league players, one of whom is Tommy Edman. But Edman on his own is a very interesting addition, don't you think?
Yeah, it's, Tommy Pham also involved in the trade. He went to the Cardinals, and you would have thought the Dodgers were going to pick up an outfielder from the White Sox. It was going to be Tommy Pham. It ended up being no outfielder from the White Sox, and ended up being Tommy Edman, who plays outfield, maybe not categorized as an outfielder. But, at the end of the day, this trade made the Dodgers better. Tommy Edman, once he's healthy and ready to go, will immediately take a roster spot from Nick Ahmed or Calvin Biggio, which is an upgrade in itself. And he's around for next year. It's not just a rental. And he's a guy who has value, maybe not in the sense of all-star or anything like that, but he's a Gold Glover. He can play elite defense at a few different positions, and he's been league average offensively, which we've been clamoring for league average offense for the most part this season. So it's going to be a little tough to him getting back into game shape and everything else. But if he can just be good for, a couple months and into the October, then it's a win for the Dodgers.
Yeah. All of that is based on the assumption that he will come back healthy and get back to his previous form. If the Dodgers got 2022 version of Tommy Edman, this is a steal and a half. If they got any other version of Tommy Edman, it's still a solid move, because even at his worst, he is, roughly league average offensively, very good defensively, all over the place, like you said, and not just all over the place, but at all the positions that the Dodgers have question marks. Center field's a big question mark. Third base is currently a big question mark. Shortstop's even a question mark. Tommy Edman plays all those positions and plays them really well. And so that one is, for me, if Tommy Edman was healthy right now and had been playing all year, this would be a huge, huge trade in my mind. Of course, if Tommy Edman was healthy and playing all year, it would have taken a lot more than what the Dodgers gave up to get him. And so, I'm pretty happy about this. I was talking with Clint over on All Dodgers earlier today, and I said, we would all love to just have a superstar at every position. And realistically, That's not going to happen. The Dodgers are closer than most teams to that, but the Dodgers have a lot of the guys who can just explode offensively. And so like I actually decided last night that I would actually rather have Tommy Edman than Luis Robert when you factor in what they would have to give up to get him and the dependability. Like obviously Luis Roberts' ceiling is way, 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 way higher than Tommy Edman's. But what the Dodgers kind of need right now is a high floor. And I think that's what Edman gives them, a guy who, guess what? You're Kike Hernandez, except you don't strike out very much. And, maybe not going to have the power that Kike Hernandez has, but I will take consistency over a flash in the pan because, when you have the superstars at the top of the lineup mixing in at the bottom of the lineup, these guys who can just get on base, put the ball in play, drive in a guy, all those things. Like, yeah, obviously you'd rather have a guy with Tommy Edman's bat to ball contact and Luis Roberts' power and, whoever's whatever. But, when you're dealing with players who are actually exist or actually available, Tommy Edman fills a need pretty well for the Dodgers.
Yeah. And then you think about it in the context of, we hope and assume that everyone gets healthy and comes back in the sense of the starter. So, like, you have a lineup with Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez. If Gavin Lux keeps it going how he is, Gavin Lux. Yeah, Tommy Edman and, maybe in center field if Pages doesn't quite figure it out. And then you have, Pages can go to right and platoon with Hayward or whatever the case if they don't get anybody else. And that's a lineup. Like, that's a lineup that is strong. 1 through 8 for sure. 1 through 9, guys can get hot and hit some homers or whatever the case is. So I think when you think about it in that context as well, it really adds to it. But yeah, it's again, if tomorrow 3:00 comes and there's nothing else that happens, the Dodgers got better at this deadline, but it would still be underwhelming. But I do think, like you said, if Edman had been playing all year and we kind of got to see what it was a little bit more, it would have cost more maybe, but we also maybe would have been a little bit more excited. So, but again, it cost Miguel Vargas at the end of the day, 2 19-year-old prospects that, there's some excitement about Albertus, but who knows? The Dodgers haven't had the greatest run of prospects kind of panning out lately. So you don't really know. And, for Miguel Vargas, we wish him the best, but they're realistically, the Dodgers didn't trust him enough on defense. They were going to try him at third base maybe again, but it wasn't going to work out if everyone came back healthy.
Yeah. And for me, the Miguel Vargas experiment at third base was either never going to happen or wasn't going to last very long because they've done that. He was a third baseman and they moved him to second because he couldn't play third base. And then they moved him to left field because he couldn't play second base. For me, Miguel Vargas is a DH and he was on a team that has a DH locked up for the next 9.4 years. And so I think it's good that the Dodgers traded him. We've talked several times. We fully expected Miguel Vargas to be traded at this trade deadline because he was never going to get regular playing time with the Dodgers. He was this year's version of Michael Busch. And, well, yes, it would have been nice to have Michael Busch for the 3 days this past weekend that Freddie Freeman was out. When you have a guy who only plays positions that Freddie Freeman and or Shohei Ohtani play, you don't need those guys. And the value to the White Sox was definitely higher. So the Dodgers were able to get something of value for him.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when you're hitting to maybe find a place for you if you're not that great defensively. But, the issue was that Miguel Vargas also wasn't hitting. And not that he's not going to be a good hitter and he might not, not that he's not going to flourish, but the Dodgers aren't on the timeline to wait for that at this point anymore.
Yeah. Their Dodgers got 2 other players. We'll come back in a minute to talk about them, Michael Kopech and the return of Amed Rosario. So thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skill trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free memberships at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Hey, we're back. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being here live with us. Thanks for being an everydayer if you are. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels over on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Sports LA is where you can find the Locked On Dodgers postcast after almost every Dodger game, hosted by Pete Fox. Definitely often a different take on things than you're going to get here. And so if you just can't get enough Dodger talk, check that out. Also, go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. I think our insiders got about 30 texts today because the news just kept on rolling and we kept everybody. We have several insiders who have totally quit social media because, like we all wish we could. And they rely on us for their news and we don't let them down. So check that out. You can text back and forth with us, one-on-one conversations. It's a lot of fun. Just a few bucks a month, free 14-day trial. And remember, you can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. So back to the trade deadline, the Dodgers in that same trade, the 3-team trade, they also got Michael Kopech from the White Sox. Kopech is a very hard-throwing relief pitcher. He's been a starter at times. Used to be a top prospect back when he was a starting pitching prospect. He missed most of 2018 or part of 2018, all of 2019 with Tommy John surgery, then missed the 2020 season because of the pandemic. And then they tried to make him a starter. He didn't pan out as a starter. So he's back to being a reliever. He's a guy whose numbers have never matched his talent level. And for me, that screams Dodgers reclamation project.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those where the stuff is there. It just, like you said, hasn't been able to put it together. He's had a little bit of a interesting switch in philosophy a little bit this year. He's going four-seamer, I think almost 80% of the time, sitting off the slider and the cutter, which are down to, lower levels than he's ever had before. He stopped throwing the curveball. So I would imagine the Dodgers have a plan for him already, which is, maybe throw a slider more, maybe throw the cutter more, maybe bring him back the curveball or, switch up the cadence or whatever it is. I'm sure there is some there because when you look at it, like there's a lot of blue there in his baseball savant page, but there's also a lot of red. And the red is fastball velo, expected batting average, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage. And, the bad stuff is, obviously everything else, but I feel like the Dodgers can fix that up. And maybe unlock a thing, or what was the word Roberts like to use? Move some levers or whatever it is. So yeah, it's one of those where the stuff is there. Maybe it's a little bit of a younger Joe Kelly type, but Joe Kelly's made big outs for the Dodgers at different points of his weird Dodgers career. He's also been bad at times. So it's one of those where the Dodgers can figure out more good than bad before the end of the season. This guy could really help out.
Yeah, and that's really what it boils down to, that there might be something there. And I don't think the Dodgers were trading for the version of Michael Kopech who's been with the White Sox. They're trading for the potential. And I think it's worth taking a risk on because the stuff is so good. And, the Dodgers have a pretty long track record of relief pitchers, taking them from being cast-offs to being somewhere between good and great. And, there's definitely potential there. So I'm excited to see what Kopech can do as a Dodger. I don't necessarily expect it to happen overnight, but I do expect him to be quite a bit better with the Dodgers than he's been with the White Sox. The other guy they got was Amed Rosario. Came over in a trade for a minor leaguer whose name I've already forgotten. Something Wyatt?
Flynn?
Michael Flynn. Yeah.
I think he was on a minor league deal, not even a prospect.
Yeah. It's a nothing deal. We will probably never think about Michael Flynn ever again. And in return, the Dodgers get Amed Rosario for the second straight trade deadline. The difference is this year when they trade for Amed Rosario, they are getting an Amed Rosario who has a 114 OPS plus this year, who is hitting really well. Last year when they got him from the Indians or the Guardians, he had an 87 OPS plus, and he was a shortstop. This year he is a utility guy with a 114 OPS plus, and again fills. One of the things that got me most excited is, I mentioned the other day that one of my big concerns with Gavin Lux is even if this is real, he still struggles against left-handed pitching. Well, Amed Rosario playing second base against left-handed pitching in the postseason fills that gap. And if you think of him, even if the Dodgers don't make any more moves on offense this deadline, a situation where Andy Pages is playing right field against left-handed pitching, and Amed Rosario is playing right field against right-handed pitching, and then Rosario is playing second base against left-handed pitching, because Rosario has been above average against both hands. It's an improvement. We're talking margins here for sure, but so far the only real opportunities for the Dodgers to improve have been on the margins. We'll talk in the next segment about what we hope is still coming. But for me, as far as improvements on the margins go, Rosario is really, really good.
Yeah, you're swapping out two guys that were DFA'd, assuming the moves are going to be, maybe Biggio and Nick Ahmed, or maybe they keep one of them, maybe Ahmed, because he can play a good shortstop until Edman comes back. But right now you're trading two guys that got DFA for two guys that one is a capable starter in this league, and Rosario, who's been a capable starter for various teams. But maybe last year, the conversation we had with Rosario when they traded for him was they needed him against left-handed pitchers only. This year, he's been good against left-handed pitchers and right-handed pitchers. He's actually played a lot more against right-handed pitching. So, maybe the Rays are known kind of for, like the Dodgers, kind of finding guys, unlocking some things here and there, making them a little bit better. And then, even though this one maybe didn't get them back to value, but, trading them for some value if they don't have a need for it or anything else. So I think if he can just remember whatever the Rays taught him or however he's been playing this year, and he comes to the Dodgers, then yeah, it's an upgrade. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if they can get one more big trade, whether it's a big time starting pitcher or some bat that maybe we haven't thought of or talked about, that's an ideal add to everything else. But at the end of the day, the Dodgers got better. It would still be an underwhelming deadline if these were the only moves. But at the very least, you're getting guys that are capable major leaguers instead of guys that were DFA'd earlier this year.
Yeah, and like Edman, Rosario doesn't strike out much. He has a well above league average strikeout rate, which is, I think that's important for this team. It's not everything, but what the Dodgers have been getting at the bottom of the lineup, we could deal with the low batting averages and everything if they were, or you can deal with the strikeouts if they're also getting hits when they're not striking out. But what the Dodgers have been getting from Kike Hernandez and most of the season from Chris Taylor and different guys is not many hits and a lot of strikeouts. And so I think this addresses those. It's kind of interesting to think about what the roster will look like, because right now Ryan Yarbrough has been DFA'd to make room for Kopech, technically, and Vargas was traded, which makes room for Rosario. Edman doesn't need a spot on the roster yet because he's still on a rehab assignment. But when he is ready to come back, you assume Kevin Biggio at that point, probably, although there's also still James Outman on the active roster. We'll see if Outman or Pages get traded tomorrow. There's still potential for trades from the active roster, trades from the 40-man roster. But yeah, I mean, at least for right now, we know what the roster will look like for the Dodgers game against the Padres on Tuesday night.
Yeah. And again, there's up until 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. We'll just have to wait and see kind of what happens and, where everything ends up. Some of the guys that were the bigger names out there are still available. Nobody huge got traded. There was Justin Turner got traded to the Mariners. Jorge Soler got salary dump traded to the Braves. There was a couple other trades throughout the day, but none of the big names. It seems like White Sox management is not happy with Garrett Crochet. So, maybe that works out in the Dodgers' favor if they want to bring him over, or, Luis Robert maybe not so much, hasn't been that great lately, but maybe he's just like he's a guy that was being caught the last couple of weeks or maybe a month or so. Like, I think not running or playing his hardest maybe as he possibly could. Maybe that's what being on a bad team does to him. So whatever it is, but Friedman's also went out and got guys that we never expected before. And not to say that he's going to do that, but it's very much within the realm of possibility.
Yep. So we will dig in more into what might be coming on Tuesday in the next, however many hours I said it is before the trade deadline. So thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your money with the summer games on Prize Picks. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the number one fantasy sports app. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code Locked On MLB in the Prize Picks app for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Hey, we're back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Please subscribe wherever you're watching, listen right now. Become an everydayer. Also, go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, and catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app just by searching for Dodgers. So hopefully the Dodgers aren't done, Vince. So far, we saw Yusei Kikuchi traded to the Astros. Was there another starting pitcher?
Eric
Fetty. Yeah.
In our trade.
So basically, no starting pitchers who I want for the Dodgers have gone anywhere yet. I wasn't on board with Kikuchi. So really, the 3 names left who I would be happy if the Dodgers got, I guess in order of most likely to least likely, would be Jack Flaherty, Garrett Crochet, and Tarek Skubal. When Clint and I were talking about Skubal, I said I think there's a 15% chance that Skubal gets traded, and I think if he does get traded, there's a 60% chance it's to the Dodgers, which mathematically puts us at 9% chance that the Dodgers will get Tarek Skubal, which isn't super high. So I don't think we'll dig into Skubal much. We've talked about him. We know that he would be our first choice of all these guys. Even given the higher cost, I think he would be both of our first choice. But more realistic, we know that Jack Flaherty was scratched from his scheduled start on Monday night for the Tigers because they expect to trade him. And the Astros were one of the teams theoretically in on him. They got Kikuchi, so maybe they're out on him. There's been reports that it's the Dodgers and Yankees. Who knows who else might be involved? You never know with these things. But I guess let's talk about Flaherty and Crochet together. First of all, Vince, which one would you rather have, Jack Flaherty or Garrett Crochet?
Yeah. These questions are always tough because it's, you have to factor in everything. If it's just based on pure skill and who I'd want to see on the mound for the Dodgers in October, it's probably Garrett Crochet, just for the simple fact of his stuff is really, really, really nasty. He doesn't maybe have the track record because this is his first season as a full-time starter, but I do think his stuff still, is a little bit better than Flaherty's, even with all the changes Flaherty's made and, his strikeout rate up and everything else. But I don't think there's a wrong answer there. One guy could potentially slot in as a number 1 in Crochet, and Flaherty probably slots in maybe more of a number 2 or a number 3 if Yamamoto does make it back. So, you play it that way, then obviously, Crochet. But I think Flaherty at this point is maybe realistic. He's a rental. It wouldn't cost as much if you really, care about that as the Dodgers, and Andrew Friedman. So I think, I don't know. It seems like Crochet kind of went rogue on the White Sox, and I don't know. It might not matter if he came to the Dodgers, but it is interesting to just kind of think about.
Yeah, and hopefully, I don't want to repeat myself too much, if because I was talking with Clint earlier today. But hey, this is all the good content comes here. I gave Clint the B stuff, but you know, one of the bits of A content I gave him, I think that uh, Crochet's going rogue is almost a non-factor for the Dodgers and could even work in their favor. Ken Rosenthal wrote an article the other day that I thought was pretty wise. Basically, can you picture Garrett Crochet walking into the Dodgers locker room saying, hey, Mookie, Freddie, Shohei, I'm your new teammate. By the way, I'm not going to play in October. If the peer pressure alone would do the trick.
Oh,
And
I've said all the bluff.
yeah, this is absolutely a negotiating ploy, trying to use his leverage. Ill-advised for sure. I joked with Clint. It's been a rough couple months for CAA, I think, between this with Garrett Crochet and all the stuff with Shohei Ohtani. It's been interesting, but yeah. And then the other reason is the Dodgers, and I mentioned this the other day with you, Vince. The Dodgers are more in a position to give him that extension if that's important to them. I don't think they would do it before making the trade. I think the Dodgers would make the trade, call the bluff, and then try to make it work for both sides. I don't think the Dodgers want Crochet to be unhappy pitching in October. I don't think they want him to be motivated to go all out. And if he has that financial security, he's going to be a better pitcher anyway. So I think it would work for both sides. But you make the trade and then you say, okay, what can we do that makes both sides happy as far as financial security goes? There would be that $500,000 of playoff share if the Dodgers won the World Series, because he ain't getting no playoff share if he doesn't pitch in October. I know that, but in the end, yeah, it's a move that would make sense. A lot of it's going to come down to which guy do the Dodgers like more, because both of them have their pros and cons. Crochet has the question mark of how much gas will he have left in October. Flaherty has a little bit of health question marks of his own. He's had a couple of PRP injections. Both guys don't have like a super long track record of dominance. So there's question marks for everybody, but that's the nature of the beast. And I do think that Andrew Friedman is working a lot harder than you and I are right now, because I think Friedman and Gomes won't consider this trade deadline complete if they don't add one of these frontline starters.
Yeah, and then you kind of move on, and Tanner Scott's been a name that's thrown around. Jim Bowden, who actually broke a trade. He usually doesn't break trades, and he usually doesn't have the best takes, but he broke a trade. He didn't have the Dodgers as one of the finalists for Tanner Scott. Not that that's a final list or anything. We saw a report from one of the Twins beat writers that the Dodgers checked in on John Duran from the Twins with the price was astronomical, as you might imagine. So I think the Dodgers will poke around. I think they'll probably end up picking up at least one reliever, probably not a top flight reliever, maybe one of those guys that we've talked about a couple in the last few weeks, like a Chris Martin, or I guess not Ryan Brazier. He was DFA. That was a little bit different, but someone like that can they have some thoughts of how they can make him better. Kopech could be one of those elite guys if they can unlock the right things with him. And then offensively, I think it's a hope for guys come back healthy, and the guys that they got play to what they've done in the past or this season, specifically when it comes to Rosario, and that Mookie comes back and is healthy, and that Muncy, they can literally rest Muncy all the way till, mid-September. That might be pushing it a little bit in terms of getting his timing back, but at the very least, they've already upgraded a little bit offensively.
Yeah. All right, here's a question for you, Vince. We know Dodgers and Giants are rivals. Dodger fans and Giants fans would not make trades with each other, but we also know that Farhan Zaidi and Andrew Friedman are buddies, and they might make trades with each other. So with the Giants tonight trading Jorge Soler, seems like maybe they are going into sell mode. Blake Snell, what do you think?
I think Andrew Friedman should be talking to Farhan Zaidi and saying, listen, man, realistically, you're probably getting fired after this year anyway. So, why not go out with a bang? I was reading the other day. So, like, the Giants, Soler was more of a salary dump because, his salary was a little bit more structured, more normal, I guess. Blake Snell like them trading him doesn't necessarily take much off their luxury bill, or luxury tax, and I don't think it might be enough with Soler now to maybe get him under. So maybe that's something they end up doing. They're so close to a playoff spot, but also, realistically, maybe it's time to blow it up, and leave all the damage for the next GM and stuff that comes in. So we talked ourselves into Snell this offseason. If it came at the right price, I think it's very easy to talk yourself into Blake Snell coming off the big game he had the other night, 15 strikeouts. So, yeah, man, I mean, if it's available, why not go out and do it?
I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about Dave Roberts. Can you imagine Dave Roberts managing Blake Snell in the postseason? Man, the stories just write themselves. And you know what? Maybe Farhan Zaidi, hey, Friedman says, hey, if you do lose that job, there's always an assistant GM job back here if you, slip us the old Blake Snell right now.
Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't nothing would surprise me tomorrow. We've had, the Max Scherzer trade a few years ago wasn't surprising in the Scherzer aspect, but then the Trey Turner came along with them. And, the Yu Darvish trade wasn't surprising in the fact that they got Yu Darvish in 2017, but the fact that we thought the Dodgers were done trading and then they got Yu Darvish about 20 minutes after the deadline had officially ended. So, yeah, it's one of those where you're putting faith in that. The Dodgers have improved, but it also would be underwhelming if that's the only improvements there.
Yep. All right, last one, 30 seconds, Vince. Brent Rooker, yes or no?
Oh, yeah, I'm all in.
Absolutely. Brent Rooker in left, Tommy Edman in center, Teoscar Hernandez in right. Boom. Andy Pages on the A's. Make it happen.
Yeah, he's got to go play in 116 Heat next summer in Sacramento, but sorry, Pajes.
Yep. Hey, he'll survive. Yeah, I'm on board with that too. You got anything else, Vince?
No, I'll probably have alarms set every 2 hours or so just for my day job over this night. So we'll see what happens if there's anybody else burning that late night oil or midnight oil, however you want to say it.
Yeah, I might have to leave my ringer on tonight so that if you text me telling me something happened, I'll wake up because I like to sleep in the morning. Hey, the people always want to know in the chat, Vince, tell us about your hat.
Yeah, so this is Born and Raised, which is a brand out of LA. There's not available right now on like the real market. You'd have to get a second market, but Born and Raised is a brand. They drop LA hats every so often, different colorways and different situations. Probably got about 3 different Dodger hats from them, a Raider hat and LAFC. So
what do the Raiders have to do with LA? All right, that'll do it for us for today. Thank you all for being with us. A lot more coming on this trade deadline. Hopefully we will be back tomorrow. Timing will depend on what goes on with the trade deadline. We may hop in right around the trade deadline if there's big news to talk about. We'll see, but we will make sure to keep you posted. Most easiest place to keep track of all that is on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, on TikTok. We will keep you posted on when we're going live. Now I did things out of order. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sport or Locked On MLB. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Subscribe to this show wherever you're watching and listening right now. Add 1 or 2 days a week to if you're not an everydayer, work your way up to being an everydayer. Also, go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Just a few bucks a month, free 14-day trial. We will text you and keep you updated on everything. Told you about our social media. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. DMs are open for both of us. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play a podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.